Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. How do you feel the day after on this Wednesday? Are you a solid point, a tough game, could have gone a different way? Or are you more, we should have won, we had the chances? Or like me, are you probably 65% in between the two and just deciding on which way you're going at certain times? Here to give us the percentages and all the answers to the questions we posed as ever is the renowned and respected David Lynch. I mean, I'm going 65% here at the moment, David. What are you going as a metric for this one?
Yeah, I'm maybe a little bit more positive than that. I think it does feel like, it could have been better. If you win this game, it feels like a big message sent out to the rest of the league. And so, it does, you feel like you've missed that opportunity to do that. But, you also have to acknowledge that Forest are a good side. They're at home in a brilliant atmosphere. They go ahead really early and give Liverpool a real scare there. And so, to come away from that game with a point is not the worst results in the world. I mean, not even close to that. I mean, for me, I don't think it's too difficult to take the positives because I don't think, and I haven't thought this for a while, that it's going to be 90 plus points to win the Premier League this season. And so I think you kind of have to recalibrate your expectations a little bit about what's a good result anymore. In a normal season, or I say normal, these are abnormal seasons where you're up against Pep Guardiola's Man City. A draw away to Forest, I don't care if they're third or not, or they're playing well or whatever, would have been a disaster. There's no two ways about it. But nobody's picking up points at the same rate anymore. It isn't that sort of league. And that is, you might go, oh, well, that shows that Liverpool aren't what they were or whatever. And maybe that's true. But I also think the sides that kind of make up the middle of the Premier League are as good as they've ever been. In terms, you think of the level of some of the players you end up coming up against in those sides, and Forest are a really good example of that. So when you take in all that context, for me, I don't think it's a bad point at all, to be honest. And I think you just have to kind of take it on the chin and just, as I say, accept this new landscape whereby you can accept these sorts of results. They're not the maddest thing that you've ever heard, or they're not a disaster for your season or whatever. It's just the kind of how it is now. And I think for Liverpool as well, it's not just about accepting the result. It's about accepting that I actually think Liverpool deserve more in the end as well. So you just have to take the positives. I think a decent point away from home against a side that are in unbelievable form at the minute. Add in the fact that Liverpool probably deserve more in the end, and I think a lot of positives to take, really. Oh, and also 7 points clear of Arsenal in the table, 6 points clear of Nottingham Forest with the game in hand. It's it's not a bad position to be in at all. And as I say, I think 85 is going to do it for me this season. So if that's the case, Liverpool don't actually have to pick up that many points between now and May to win the title.
I did kind of want to ask you about the landscape, and I just wonder, maybe it's because we know what City have done to us like 3 times, like high points level, pipped on the last day, everything that's happened. Do you think the landscape just is now different? There is almost that PTSD that Liverpool fans are used to, like a draw away at Forest is a disaster, but actually maybe there is that recalibration that it's probably going to be less than 90 points. And actually, those times we used to joke about Roy Keane giving it the big one when United won the league with 78, or not that low, but we're dealing within those margins more.
Yeah, I just think you just kind of have to accept it. And like I say, I'm reading comments on my YouTube or tweets on social media talking about the results in just the way that we have been conditioned. It's that PTSD, as you say, from the Man City run-ins. It's just not going to be like that, because who's the team that's going to push and get 90 points this season? Well, it certainly isn't Man City. I mean, I saw someone incredibly tweet yesterday that goal for Brentford's really big for us. Man City are 12 points behind Liverpool, having played a game more. And they are rubbish. Like, I say rubbish, they'll probably finish like top 4, top 5, whatever. They might get some signings that improve this. They are nowhere near the title mix. People need to get this out of their heads. I can't explain it clear enough that they are just going to be nowhere near it, really. So people need to get used to that idea. But then, yeah, generally the idea that it isn't going to take as many points. You can get away with dropping more. And again, as I say, I don't think the dropping more points is a reflection on Liverpool or means that they're a terrible side or not as good as they used to be. I do think, as I said, that there's been this real improvement in the middle of the Premier League. It is kind of the Super League these days. You know, you think of some of the players that are dotted throughout the league. Some of the examples I always throw out. I mean, yesterday, Callum Hudson-Odoi is absolutely brilliant. Murillo, absolutely phenomenal player. Chris Wood, in the form he's in, could be playing for anyone. But then you look at Anthony Robinson at Fulham. You look at, you know, they had João Palhinha not that long ago. You look at Jared Bowen being at West Ham, Lucas Paquetá. There are so many good players throughout this league. João Pedro at Brighton, they've got loads of them. Baleba. It's just that middle part of the league is stronger than it has ever been, and it is harder to pick up points against them. And therefore, Liverpool are still managing to do that at a better rate than everybody else that's around them. And, you know, unless you're fearing that someone's going to go on this mad run, I want someone to tell me who that team is. And if it's Arsenal, are they doing it without Bukayo Saka? Are they doing it without Gabriel Jesus? Are they doing it with all the problems that they seem to have? If they do it from here, then fair play to them. But I just can't see it. And therefore, for me, you come away from games like that, a trip to Nottingham Forest, where you go behind, you play that well, you just take it all as major positives. And for me, by first half, I was kind of a bit down in the dumps. We were texting through the match, getting a bit frustrated.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, I was kind of more convinced about Liverpool as title winners, really, because that's the third best team or second best team as the standings sit at the moment that the league's got to offer. And I thought Liverpool absolutely dominated them in the latter part of the game.
I do want to kind of ask you a little bit about, I suppose you call it the first half, second half contrast, because we kind of mentioned it there. And for me, it was quite marked. Just before we do that, let's just have a look or listen as well to a short bit of Arne Slot on what he said after the game.
So if you look at today, like I said, I couldn't have asked for more play. I said to them at halftime, I said, don't get frustrated. You will not get many chances. Probably the game is going to be slow, but just keep focusing on what you have to do, and hopefully you will get 2 or 3 chances. Let's try to score from that. But I was completely wrong because they created chance after chance after chance.
Arne, obviously you've managed Diogo in terms of his minutes since he came back. Do you feel like he is now getting back into the rhythm of things? He made a big impact.
Yeah, he made a big impact already before when he came in against Fulham, but then after that game he had a bit of a setback. And in the games he came in afterwards, I also felt that he needed a bit more time to get in his rhythm.
I want to stop it there because there's about 1,000,001 things to pick up from that. I mean, like you said, we were messaging about this, and it's a frustration for me, but I want to separate the two. We'll go with the brilliant first of all. That second half, I mean, we created chances galore, didn't we?
Yeah, which is not easy to do, as Arne Slot says. I mean, you look at the kind of XG count. I think Liverpool ended up with about 2 yesterday, which is the third highest that Nottingham Forest have conceded at any point this season in the Premier League. So it's very, very difficult to do that. And they keep finding ways to that kind of low block, which is, it's just nightmarish to do it, particularly when you're up against a side as well who got a 1-goal lead and got something to defend, or when it gets to 1-1, they've got that to defend, and they're holding on in front of a home crowd that's really vociferous. Makes it even more tricky. So the way Liverpool kept finding ways through that and carving out these massive opportunities was so impressive. But then sometimes also you need the kind of finishing gods to be on your side. You need Matt Sells not to be a brick wall. You need the blocks on the line to just deflect in or deflect to a player for a tap in. So, and that just wasn't happening. But I just don't think you can have any complaints about what Liverpool did in terms of creating chances in that second half. And by the way, completely limiting Forest. Now we talk about how good they are on the counter. They basically only have 1 chance in the game yesterday. And that's even including the poor first half. That we say poor first half, where Liverpool weren't quite there in terms of creating. But they create 0.09 XG in the second half. They have 1 shot in the box inside the entire game, which is the one that goes in. So the way Liverpool manage that is hugely impressive. And to do that while you are dominating, creating chances yourselves is a really, really difficult thing to do. So I thought it was, second half in particular, hugely impressive. And as Slot says, he didn't even expect them to be that good. And they really, really were.
Yeah, and why Rio Ferdinand was billing it as a basketball game was just absolute nonsense, because that was not what's unfolding at all. But I had no idea where that came from. But the first half, I do want to ask you about this, because I was thinking it does seem to be a theme. whether it's starting slowly, and that's not always the case because we looked okay in the opening, but we just seem to give up periods of the first half quite often. It is a bit of a theme that's cropping up, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the thing that's frustrating me about the first halves really is kind of, it's not even that they're giving up chances. I know they go in 1-0 down, but really in a lot of these first halves, they're giving up basically very little expected goals and then kind of coming in and when a chance pops up that, Forest did it yesterday, is kind of they score with the one chance, they get the one shot inside the box they have, goes in the back of the net. Yeah. And that's a bit reminiscent really of some of the earlier games in the season. I think about Brighton did a similar thing. First half, Liverpool weren't very good in attack, but they weren't giving very much up. But then Brighton score a low XG chance and you're thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a difficult afternoon. Obviously, they go on to win that. But it was a very similar game to that, actually, in terms of how it played out, I felt. And again, you can't, I don't think we can have too many complaints really about because at the time we're kind of emotional and you're invested in the game, you're watching it, you're thinking this is exactly how Nottingham Forest wanted it to go. The reality is you watch it back and it's not actually, because they don't get any opportunities. They limit Liverpool, but the only way they limit Liverpool is through sloppiness. Liverpool's just not looking that great in the final third, misplaced passes, things like that. That was Liverpool's biggest problem. But I don't think like Nottingham Forest were ripping through them or getting any of the counter-attacking opportunities that they really wanted. I just didn't see an awful lot of that. I mean, that says it all. One shot inside the box in the entire 90 minutes. So if Liverpool don't concede that goal from that one chance, and that is something they really do have to eradicate because that's happening quite a lot at the minute, then, if you take that moment, that one moment out of the game, or Alisson tips it round the post or whatever, you're coming away saying that's an amazingly controlled away performance, really dominant in terms of attacking in the second half, but generally completely limited Nottingham Forest. And you're delighted and you get a 1-0 win. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite play out like that. But I can't, watching it back today, I kind of find it really, really difficult to be overly critical of Liverpool and what they did really in that first half, because the work they did to limit Forest and stop their attackers doing anything was pretty impressive, really.
Yeah, to be fair, there was a lot to like, especially about the second half, and that probably has pushed me up to about 70% or so. And the final thing that Arne Slot mentioned there was about Diogo Jota. So as much as he mentioned him, let's just have a quick listen to what Diogo Jota said after the game.
Yeah, Diogo, you certainly enjoy playing against Nottingham Forest. That's your 7th goal against them. What is it that you so enjoy about facing them?
I think it's just a coincidence. Obviously, I love to score goals. I scored in my first touch today. Obviously, that gave the team a bit of momentum. I had two more chances. I think I could have give us the 3 points. Unfortunately, I couldn't, and game on.
Yeah, I mean, he comes on, and that's unbelievable. 22 seconds, I think it was, he scores the equaliser, and he was honest there, and he kind of conjures them himself almost for the second one. He could have had a hat-trick though, couldn't he?
Yeah, and a finisher like him, he'll be disappointed. But I think, you've just got to think sometimes the ball just does not go in. He gets the one, and that's important. I don't think he can he's a ruthless finisher usually. And the fact he doesn't add to his tally, I don't think he can have any complaints. There's blocks on the line, brilliant saves, kind of a lot going on there. And sometimes if there's crowded bodies, you're going to struggle to get it through. I don't think you can be overly critical of that. But I think what you did see when he came on the pitch was his huge value to this team, and to show that in scoring when he came on, but also everything else he provided in terms of dribbling, threat, runs in behind that were dragging players out of position. He's pressing in kind of an attacking midfield role, then he moves into centre forward role. He's just a brilliant player, and it is a shame he didn't get the other goals because he deserved them for his performance. But sometimes you come up against a keeper who's just saving everything on a defence that really doesn't want to concede.
Yeah. Especially that third chance. That was an absolutely brilliant save by Sells. He couldn't have really done any more, Jota. I suppose, though, when we talk about doing any more, was there a frustration for you, like me, that he only comes on after the hour mark? This just felt a game where Luis Diaz in a false 9, the way Forest were going to defend, it just didn't look suited. Surely Jota needs to start these big games.
Yeah, I think the manager will feel that way as well, because I don't think it's just about kind of getting momentum in the game or anything like that. I just do think Jota changed things, because all of a sudden it was the first time Nottingham Forest really started to look uncomfortable because they had a runner going in behind them. Whereas Diaz is just to feet. And it's, you look at their central defensive pairing, they find it so easy there to kind of just, to one of them follows him out and just stay really tight and compact. And it just wasn't disorganizing them in the way that it worked earlier in the season. So I think this is something, I think it's maybe going to change Arne Slot's mind, really, is what he saw there. And he spoke at the pre-match press conference about Diogo Jota being ready for 90 minutes. So if that's the case, then I think that change needs to be made. And I think with Diaz, he's had a good run in that false nine role, but I think teams have started to work it out now. So I think he needs to go back to be in competition with Gakpo for that start on the left-hand side.
Yeah, and see that Jota's 7 goals in 7 games against Forest, 8 for the season now. He's got to be playing on Saturday, whatever happens. And I mean, we talked about Jota, he was unlucky. I mean, Gakpo has one. I think he pretty much just tips beyond the post cells. Mo Salah will be annoyed he didn't get on the score sheet as well. There were just chances galore, weren't there?
Yeah, and again, you don't want to be too critical of a forward line that has consistently produced this season. I mean, Salah, that ends a run of 12 consecutive games where he's either scored or assisted and sometimes done both. So, again, his finishing is good. Again, it's a couple of shots blocked on the line. He has, moments where it just, that sells one where he tips it over the bar. It can just happen, can't it? So, I think he'll want to get on another run of scoring again now he's missed one. But I find it very, very difficult to be too critical of Mo Salah given what he's provided this season. And similarly with Gakpo, I thought he was very unlucky not to score as well with that curler to the far post that got a little nick. So I've no worries that if they continue to get those kind of level of chances in the games ahead, then they'll score a lot of goals.
Yeah, we are creating, and on another day, it's a hatful, but it is 1-1 in this one. And we mentioned it at the slot there. I suppose the final bit I want to talk about with the Forest game, there's quite a lot of people tweeting this and sort of discussions back and forth. The tactical side, to me, there was an element of, he gets the second half right again. Absolutely brilliant. Chances galore, no doubts about that. Do you think, though, the way he set up, especially in the first half, and I know we messaged about this, there were a lot of long shots we were taking, which Forest must have been quite happy with more than anything. Maybe lost the tactical battle first half, but definitely won it second half.
I think, for me, as I said, I think the first half tactical battle was pretty even, really. Liverpool completely limited Forest. They didn't really concede much outside of that one moment where the goal goes in. And again, that is a really good finish on your left foot. So you've got to kind of give credit for that. So for me, it was kind of on as even at halftime. And then Slot kind of just decimated Nuno in the second half. Now, unfortunately, that only gets you a 1-1 draw, because if you do concede from the one shot you give up inside the box, that gives you a kind of mountain to climb there. But for me, kind of overall, it ends in favour to Slot, really. And I think if there's one thing Liverpool could have done more of, and I think this is what Jota would have provided, is in that first half, is be more of a threat in behind. Because not only does it gives you that threat for the ball, the long ball in behind or whatever, but also it creates space in front for the midfield to operate in, because it drags their defence back. It just creates that gap. So I just think a lot of it he'll wish that he started Jota in this one. And one other thing, actually, by the way, I want to kind of mention is on the theme of Liverpool, they're conceding a lot of goals at the moment. There's a lot of talk about it. Yeah. But I actually think they've been quite unlucky, to be honest. And I kind of looked at some of the numbers. So since Alisson's come back into the side, he's faced 24 shots on target. That's brought 10 goals, and that's from 6.6 expected goals. So Liverpool, it's just that kind of little balance has gone in favour of the opposition scoring, whereas at the start of the season, it was kind of the other way around, and Liverpool were riding the crest of a wave a little bit. They maybe got a bit lucky in some moments, and the fine margins were going for them. The margins are going against them at the moment. And the fact is, if you're in a period like that and you're still avoiding defeat, you're on a decent run, and you're still creating that or keeping that gap at the top and keeping a decent cushion, then you can't complain too much. But I think that is one area I would like to see the variance kind of level out a bit over the coming games, in terms of, not conceding from 2 shots. And if you can do that, then I'm sure the form will kind of even out a bit, because I think there's an element of misfortune to that, to be honest.
Yeah, it just feel like we haven't had some good luck for a while. But as you said, we are still 6 points clear of Forest, 7 ahead of Arsenal. So there isn't really too much to complain about. And